Yeah, I found out I was HIV positive in 1993, actually not thinking that I needed to worry about it. But when I went with some friends who were gay men and had been popular. So I was worried about them, and I took them in to get tested, and one of them freaked out when he saw the needle, because in 93, that was how you did an HIV test, was you had a blood draw. It was a small amount of blood, but it was a blood draw, and so he saw the needle, and he's like, oh my God, I can't do this, the needle, it's this big, and they take a gallon of blood. And I went in with my bossy self, because that's the way I am, and just kind of was going to straighten him out, and decided instead that I would lead by an example, and I would take an HIV test. And actually, even before I found out I was HIV positive, that was my first time to understand the stigma associated with HIV, and especially women in HIV, because they didn't want to give me an HIV test. I was so low risk that they weren't going to be reimbursed for the test, and they felt that there was no need to bother testing me. I hadn't really been sexually active with a lot of partners, but it was definitely more than 4. And so I offered to pay for my own test, and came back 2 weeks later after all of my friends had also tested. And we were prepared to set up a care structure for our friends, because we had 6 gay men who were tested. In 1993, chances were really good at least one was going to be positive. And I still remember the feeling of celebration, because one after the other came out and was HIV negative, and we thought, wow, we've dodged the bullet. And then I went in to get my test, and it was the same guy who hadn't really felt that I needed a test, and we sat down and we did the test results, and he said, oh, good news, you're negative. And I thought, oh, okay, well, that's not surprising. And then they went into the post-test questions that were, how do you feel about that? Which I still feel are the dumbest questions on the planet, because I mean, like, what? Duh, I feel great about being HIV negative. And I was thinking, how much longer do I have to put up with this fool? And I'm reading along upside down, and I realized that the box that's marked is not the HIV negative box, but the HIV positive box. So this person had made a bunch of assumptions, and they had seen me, a white, well-spoken woman, graduated from college, employed, working, dragging friends in to get tested. And he had looked at the folder and had seen the result that he expected, which is that I was going to be HIV negative. And of course, the guy freaked out and started hyperventilating. That was very exciting. And feeling really bad about giving me my test result in such a crummy way, which he should have. But like many women, I jumped into the caretaker model. And I said, don't worry, I'll be fine. I'm a really strong person. And I left, and I had to tell my 6 HIV negative gay friends that we were so worried about, that the person who hadn't escaped the bullet was me, and that I was the HIV positive person.